This looks like a regular 2D scene with just a sprite going across the screen, but it isn't. In actual fact, almost everything in here is 3D. So this is actually a 2D game. I've got a couple of 2D sprites in here. The rest of it is all 3D. How is this working? Because of the new Unity 6.3 update, which released just 2 days ago. What they now allow you to do is to take in a 3D model, import it into your game, and you've now got a converter tool which allows it to be used like a 2D sprite. That means it's going to respond to sorting layers, sprite masks, and lighting, just like all of your other 2D sprites. You can now mix and match freely. This is amazing for 2D developers because it completely opens up the world of art assets. We can now use any of the 3D models in our 2D games. So let me show you step by step how to actually set this up and get it working. So first of all, you need to make sure that you install the latest Unity 6.3 LTS. So this was released on the 4th of December 2025 and it has now got support for 2 years. So this is going to go up to December 2027. So once you've got this installed, we can now create a new project. So I've already done one, but I'm going to do another one here. So I'm going to make sure that I'm now selecting my Unity 6.3 and I want a 2D project. And I'm just going to call this 3D to 2D demo. If you can see something in the corner of the screen, it's my cat that's decided to join me. So the first thing we're going to need to do is to change the project to use the universal render pipeline. Now this comes with the new Unity installation, but it's not used by default. So we want to click on this over here, universal render pipeline global settings, and we just click this button to open up the project settings to the graphics setting there. So we've got over here default render pipeline, which will be set to none. So click on the little icon, select the universal one, press enter, and again to confirm. And just to make sure that you're definitely using it, also come down to quality and make sure that render pipeline asset is set to universal RP. Once you've got that much, the actual project is set up. I'm going to start off by putting a couple of 2D sprites in the game. So I'm going to use this city backdrop, which I got over here from FreePick, and I've also got this section of road, which I just put together in a previous game. So over on the sprite, so these are just regular 2D sprites. So I'm actually going to do both of those. Just set that over to single. Bilinear is fine. Take off the compression and apply. But the road section, this one is going to be tiled. So this needs to be full rect and the wrap mode needs to be repeat. So first of all, the city skyline, I'm just going to drag that in, put it around there, that's fine. My piece of road, let's put it down in the corner. And for this, I want to change the draw mode over to tiled. And then using the rect tool, I can just drag that out. So this is the 2D part set up. So that's all I need now for the 2D. And the rest of it is going to be done with 3D models. So I'm using this pack from Cinti Studios, who do a lot of 3D models. This one is free and it's called Simple Town Light. I've already added it to my Unity, but next we need to actually import it into the project. So back in Unity, I'm going to go over to Window, my package manager over here, click on My Assets, wait for that to refresh, and it's the Simple Town Light. So I've already downloaded it, of course, and I'm now just going to import. And I'm going to import everything except for the scenes. I don't want their scene. Click on import. Now for some reason one of the assets does give me an error, but it doesn't seem to cause a problem with using it, so I'm just going to clear that. So that has given me a new folder, Simple Town Light, but notice we can't see things properly. We can have a look at the textures and we can see them, they look okay. But if we click on the materials, we can't see what they look like. The models, they're just an outline, that's fine. But again, the prefabs, they don't work either. So now what we have to do is we have to change a few things in order to get these working as 2D. So the 6.3 update provides us with a new tool. So if we go to Window and Rendering, and then the Render Pipeline Converter, and then on the little drop down, we've got 2D converters and convert 3D materials for 2D RP, 2D URP. This is the one we're going to be using, but there's something that we have to do first, and there are still problems with it from what I can see. So over on the materials, on this particular pack, I don't know if this is the case for all 3D models, but certainly for this particular one, you'll notice the shader that they're using on the materials is a legacy one. What we need to do is manually change this to the 2D. So if I type in 2D over here, the one we want is Mesh 2D Lit Default. As soon as we change that, it then becomes visible in the project inspector. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that for all of these. So I can now see the materials properly, but I still can't see the prefabs. So it's at this point that we need to go and use that tool. So again, we're going to rendering, render pipeline converter, and the one we want is 2D converters and convert 3D materials for 2D URP. Now there is a problem with this. I don't know if this is a bug. I mean, this is brand new. It's only been a couple of days, but we click on this over here, and then it will say here it's going to make some irreversible changes to the project. It says there's nothing selected. It can't find it, except it does, because if I now click on the initialize converters, there we go. They all work. So I'll just give that a minute to stop whirring. Close that window, and now I can use these prefabs just like any other 3D asset. So let's put in, I think I started with an apartment building first of all, and I could just use this as normal. So I'm going to scale this down a little bit, make that just a bit smaller. Drop that down in here. So at the moment I'm just positioning these normally, and I haven't actually set up any sprite sorting layers yet. Let me do that while I think about it. So I'm just going to go back over to my city skyline, and in my sorting layer, so this is the sorting layer for the sprite renderer, I'm going to add in 3 layers here. So I'm going to put in a background one. Actually, I'll make it more explicit. Actually, I'm going to put sky, buildings, road, and then vehicles, capital V. So my skyline, I'm going to put on the sky, and the road section, I'm going to put on the road. Now, to use the building sorting layers, obviously we don't have a sorting layer because this is not a 2D sprite. So what we have to do is we have to add a new component to it, which is called the sorting group. But this now allows you to use the sorting layer, and these are the same ones as for the sprite sorting layer. So I can now set that to buildings, and we also have to click this little button here, sort 3D as 2D, and that makes sure that they're all appearing in the right layer. So on this particular asset pack, if I come back over to my prefabs, this pizza one, I want to use the pizza place. Obviously that is way too big. So let me just scale that down about that size. But it's facing the wrong way. And this is where it's so cool, because I can just use this as a 3D asset. If I click over now to work on this in 3D, just make this a little bit smaller. I can now just work on this just like an ordinary 3D object. I'm going to click on the rotation tool, and I'm just going to turn that around, and well, look what's happening in the bottom scene. So I'm just going to turn this around so that it's kind of like facing onwards. So I'm guessing I probably would just want a -90 on the Y there. And now I can just flick this back to 2D, and then I can position it just like any other object. So I can just position this as 2D, move it over here a little bit, and there we go. It's a little bit too big, I think, compared to the apartment building. So let me scale that a little bit more, just make it a bit smaller and bring it down. And the last object that I was going to put in was just a bookstore, just to use up some of the space. Now this is facing the right way. All I'm going to do with this one is just scale it, make it a bit smaller. It's not too important. Really, these are just kind of like sort of background objects for the scene, really. Obviously, I'm not doing anything particularly fancy with it. What I want to do now is put in a couple of vehicles. But these, I want these to behave, where am I? In prefabs in vehicles. So I've got 2 trucks here. So I'm going to grab this one for this pizza place, I'm going to put this in and notice it's not displaying at all properly to start with. So again, sorting component, which I haven't done on the others. So let's put that in for these. Sorting component for buildings and the drug score. Sorry, sorting group, not sorting component, and buildings. Back over in my vehicles, I am now going to put this as vehicles. It's still not working. And I have forgotten to click this little button, sort 3D as 2D, and we need to do that on all of these as well. So sort 2D as 3D. So there's two things we need to do. We need to add the sorting group. Obviously we need to set the sorting layer, but we also need to click this sort 3D as 2D, and that needs to be on every single one of these 3D objects. So now my little truck is appearing in front of the pizza place, but I don't want it to look like that. I want it to be rotated. So I'm going to move my cat, and then I'm just going to rotate the truck around, so it's kind of, yeah, kind of like that. And I'm actually going to have it facing the other way. No, I'll have it facing that way, it's fine. I want it at a kind of a bit of an angle. Back over in 2D now, and I'm just going to move it up in front of the pizza place. So what I also want to do is experiment with some lighting. So on a 2D game, we have by default this global light, and it just lights everything up at a nice sort of bright intensity. I'm going to drag this down, make it a little bit darker. Yeah, maybe 0.25. So it looks like it's kind of an evening scene. And now I can add some lights. Before I do that, I'm just going to add my other truck. So this one over here, I also want this guy facing the other way. So sorting group, vehicles. This time let's try and remember to put that on here. Go back into my 3D mode. Now this one, I want him completely facing this way. So this is going to be -90 on the Y. And I'm actually just going to move it. I come back over into 2D. I am going to move it kind of further down and just sort of off the side of the screen there. So it's just going to look like he's driving sort of past the other car. I'm going to put it as order in layer 1 to make sure it goes in front of the pizza. But what I want to do also is put some lighting in here, because these objects are now going to respond to lights just like they would as 3D. So I'm going to come down to lighting, and I'm going to put a spotlight 2D. So this isn't, you know, a particularly great light, but it will do for demonstration purposes. I'm just going to make it quite a bit bigger on both the inner and the outer. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a couple of these lights just kind of like on the pizza place, really. So I'm going to put one here. And what I want is on the target sorting layers, I don't want the vehicles lit. So I'm going to take vehicles off, and notice, so if I do that again, if I put everything on, it just lights it up just like that light is just there lighting the whole scene. So that's how it would usually be in a 2D game, but we can now have it so that it's now responding properly to the sorting layer. So it's behind that car. And same again, let's make that one just maybe a little bit bigger, and maybe change the color. Not that it really makes much difference, but it's just kind of more of a yellow glow on that side. But again, what I've done here is I've had it so that it's not lighting up the car, and we can see the difference there. And now what I'm going to do with my hot dog truck over here, I am going to give this its own little headlight. So it's very crude, but it demonstrates it. So I'm going to give it another spotlight, and I'm going to put it near the front of the truck. No, for this, I need to rotate this. Because I rotated the vehicle, I also need to rotate the light. Let's make the inner one over here. There we go. Oh, no, not like that. So just make the outer one just a little bit bigger. And I'm just going to move it out. It's kind of in front of here slightly. So now I'm just going to add a little script to the truck just to get it to move across the screen. I'm not going to bother putting this in a proper folder. I'm just going to call this truck over here, and I'm just going to add it. Just going to add it over here as an ordinary component. Double click on this. All right, it's just one line of code. Now, usually you would do vector 3 forward to get it to move in the direction that it's facing. But because we've flipped it around, I actually need to do that in negatively so that it's kind of going backwards on the forwards. If we actually run this now, the truck should move across the scene, hopefully. There we go. So it moves across the scene, and we can see it's in front of the other truck. It's got its little light, and everything is set up. So there you go. That is all there is to it. I hope you found this useful. I hope this opens up your world to 3D assets. I'm really looking forward to start looking at 3D assets as part of my 2D games from now on. Okay, that is all I've got for this video. Thanks very much for watching, guys.